The reason why the Lunar Corporation campaign is so easy for experienced RTS players is mostly because of this guy. Fang is an absolute monster of a unit. Fast, amphibious, wielding a long-range ultra-powerful beam weapon, and regenerating hit points extremely fast while standing still. While he's not omnipotent, with proper micro he can carry the first half of the missions almost single-handedly, so let's put him to good use. But first some prep work. 2 additional research centers for faster upgrades, a supply depot, another power plant and battery to juice it all up, a couple of mercury suppliers, and 8 moons with chain guns. There is no way I'm using lunars I'm getting at the beginning. I load 1 Mercury, all the moons and Fang in Jupiter and start the first mission. Ural is the obligatory warm-up map. While the briefing says the LC is bad at fighting, this is a big lie. Just let them get electro cannons. For now, just Fang with chain gun moons is enough. His weapon not only damages the targets, but drains their electronics, at some point disabling them. I use this to disable the ED Vehicle Production Center and destroy all transporter Taigas. The AI hopelessly tries to restore energy by building power plants all over. But at this point it can never get any more resources. During this, the moons defend the base from occasional tanks that sneak through to counterattack. At some point, the opponent runs out of money, and all that's left to do is to clean up and claim the enemy resource field. To do that, I disable all power plants in the same way as the VPC to unpower the base, and then move in my moons once it's harmless. Once everything is gone, I ferry everything back home, only leaving the lunars I got in the beginning. There are 3 micro missions in the campaign, revolving around the LC scientists studying and trying to reverse engineer Fang's alien craft. For the first one, I have to bring Fang in. There is no danger of losing him here in any way for now. The Himalaya mission plays out nearly the same as Ural with 1 new addition. The enemy has repair vehicles now, so I have to take those out first before disabling the production center. On my way to the enemy base, I intercept the Gru's builders and occasional tanks the AI sends my way. As before, I clean up the base, claim the enemy field, and leave the starting lunars behind. Kamchatka is where the campaign gets interesting. There are 2 enemy bases on the map, the military base to the west and the research center to the south. To complete the mission, I need to destroy the latter, but since I'm a bit of a hoarder, I'll take out both, starting with the western one. The enemy has helicopters now, which Fang can't attack. However, in the last mission I unlocked meteors, my own air units, and built some of them before starting this one. The front entrance to the base is heavily fortified by cannon turrets, but there is another entrance from the northern shore, leading right to the mines. While I begin my work there, I ferry over the moons to defend against attacks from another base. The principle will not change much during the entire playthrough. Cutting mining and civil unit production disables the base, so I can switch my attention to another one. Is what I'd like to say with confidence if I didn't start losing units sometimes. Here begin the reloads. I start to plan ahead which targets I engage with Fang. While his ammo regenerates over time, as for any other energy weapon, the restoration rate is much slower than the rate of fire, and the reserve can be spent very quickly. After I lose Fang in the dumbest way ever, I reload again, and the third attempt goes much smoother and faster than before. That allows me to switch to the base to the south earlier. While I was busy with green AI to the west, the white one was building up a sizable army. I have to deal with it quick, and I cannot sit around waiting for my forces to regenerate. So I end up playing with fire by engaging the tanks with Fang, who is 2 cannon hits away from dying. I managed to lure the tanks right into my base, where they get perforated by moons. Once that is done, I return to the southern base with Fang and meteors and pacify it. As soon as it's depowered, The moons are sent in for the cleanup, while the main force goes back west to finish off the green base. From this point, all I have to do is wait until the map is empty and take back my stuff. Next come 3 no-build missions, in the first 2 of which I barely even have to do a thing. The first one is Arctic. I send Fang in, reach the UCS base on the other side of the map, and get back to the base. That's it. The next one is even easier. It's the second test in the lab. Here I just watch the prototype unit run around and self-destruct. The prototype isn't my unit, as I cannot control it, so this doesn't fail the run. Next comes Canada. Here I have to escort the UCS vehicles from one base to another through the entire map. The catch is that there is a bunch of ED units in the way, and even an entire base. Theoretically, there is a way to go around it, but in my experience it's easier to just disable it as I usually do and guide the escort through. For this, along with Fang, who's supposed to lead the convoy, I bring my meteors. Instead of meeting up with the convoy right to the north of the LZ, I go west where the ED base is. My goal is to get rid of all power plants and small towers here so that nothing can hurt the UCS vehicles. While clearing out the base, I am being more careful with where Fang goes, because I expect some very nasty units to come to base at some point. The way hard AI works is that it will pull every unit belonging to the green player to try and defend the base. At first it's the usual cannon Pamir tanks, but then they arrive. Meet Siberias with laser cannons, the ED energy weapon. This weapon doesn't damage the target, but heats it up and makes it explode when it's too hot. While it takes a lot of time to fry up buildings, it can destroy units in 2 hits if they don't have shields. And Fang doesn't have a shield yet, so he stays at a respectful distance from the coastline, while meteors dispose of the threat. When the base is neutered, I start backtracking to the starting point where the UCS convoy is. Meteors scout ahead for laser Siberias, and Fang follows when the area is clear. I meet up with the convoy and take it on a tour across the map in a similar way. The UCS vehicles are scripted to follow Fang once it stops somewhere, and Fang goes to the areas cleared by meteors, so the task is trivial. The only disappointing thing is that I have to pick up the lunars I was given in the beginning, because I cannot build the ore transport bases for the prompt to appear. Baikal is weird. I ferry the usual Fang meteors loadout and rush Fang to the base on the western side. When I reach it, the self-destruction triggers, so during the countdown I get back to my LZ and fend off the big group of tanks attacking it. The AI tries to rebuild the base after it blows up, but I move in with my forces and quickly prevent that, getting full control of the map. Now I can dump off those lunars from Canada, as well as some outdated moons. The final Acme Lab mission serves one purpose: to give Fang shields. The pilot of the new prototype goes rogue and tries to escape under the cover of ED forces assaulting the base. I have to stop that with Fang, but there is a risk of him being destroyed instead due to relatively equal firepower. To counter that, there is a shield artifact right near the LZ which Fang can pick up. Now the only thing actually dangerous to him is a massive air assault. I catch up with the prototype and, utilizing some micro, take it out before it can reach the exit. Amazon's task is a standard resource collection, but the premise is a bit more interesting. One in-game day after the beginning of the mission, a large ED force will attack my base, and the mission briefing suggests destroying the bridges to cut their path. Clearly the developers didn't account for the sheer impact of Fang and meteors. After a quick disarming of the green base in the center of the map, I start hunting down the squads of the orange AI scattered around. The 2 unit types the orange has are Cannon Pamirs and Rocket Siberias. I try to engage them with meteors and Fang respectively, sometimes using one to lure the squad into another. I finish the job with 2 in-game hours to spare, and the rest is a stress-free cleanup of the leftover structures. The Great Lakes is another UCS convoy escort mission, but this one is easier since there is no enemy base. As usual, I scout ahead with meteors and move in with Fang once there is nothing too threatening to the convoy. Somewhere in the middle of the road, a character called Neo shows up and offers to side with the ED instead of UCS by destroying the convoy. The choice doesn't matter all too much, but since I set up a rule that I have to beat the missions as fully as I can, I have to refuse the offer. So I ignore Neo's message and reach the UCS base. There are two versions of the next several missions, depending whether you sided with UCS or ED. The maps and the nature of the objectives remain the same, however. I started with Madagascar. My base is in the center of the map. The UCS, who are my allies, are to the southwest, and the ED are to the northeast. The objective is simple: destroy all ED forces. I quickly repel a small attack of ED and disable their economy. At some point, a scripted event occurs where Neo hacks the UCS mechs and steers them to ED control. Now I have to sweep the island in search of these scattered units. When that is done, I return to the cleanup of the ED base. Neo tries to steal the UCS units again, but this time he doesn't get much. For some mysterious reason, my ally just couldn't mine any more resources and make more units. When the map is clear, I claim the available resource fields, retire all the moons that served me well all this time, and pack the rest of my units. By the way, this mission gives me enough resources to be able to finish the main requirement of the campaign, so all that's left is to simply beat the remaining missions. There's more of the same in Australia. I am to the northeast, UCS is to the northwest, and the target ED base is to the south. This is the map where the enemy AI is getting mine layers, but since all LC ground vehicles are hovering, I don't care much about it. ED is also getting the ion cannon, and the briefing makes it sound quite scary, so I exercise some caution when using Fang. I didn't remember that due to its slow rate of fire, its DPS to shields is laughable. Oh well. Neo steals the UCS units here as well. But this time, my ally hasn't sent a big attack yet, so all the forces have been sitting at the base at that moment. Because of that, the UCS got shredded. I have no idea how the base was even left standing. Some captured units even decided to march all the way to my base, as if there were no better targets nearby. Thankfully, the map is not too big, so I end up clearing it out rather quickly. I claimed the ED ore field and was just about to fly back to the base when... yeah. So I unload back and sweep the map again. I pack up and try to finish the mission when I see that the area is not yet clear. Turns out there was a single captured mech hiding in the corner of the former ED base with nothing to do. As soon as it's dealt with, I check whether the area is now clear, and upon confirmation, I finally finish the mission. By now, I have unlocked the 3 key technologies: the shield generator, a heavy vehicle called Crater, and a heavy electric cannon to put on it. I take my time building a squad of electric cannon craters and send them to Mozambique right after my standard loadout. I have 2 goals here: destroy the ED forces as well as Neo's headquarters. Luckily, the latter stands right near the enemy base, so I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. The craters perform well in the base guard duty, and when the enemy AI is powerless, drastically speed up the cleanup process. The only issue I have to be careful with is to not destroy the tunnel entrances prematurely. They do count as parts of the ED base, but I need to check that the tunnels are empty first. Lunar Corporation will not have the capability to build their own tunnel gates until the Moon Project, so I put craters on return fire mode and sweep the area. After that I blow up the tunnel entrances, finishing the mission, and pack my belongings. Neo managed to escape last time, so I have to chase him down to Rio de Janeiro. The map is quite large, so while it's possible to finish the mission with Fang alone, I go in force to sweep the area faster. Even so, it takes me a whole in-game day to find Neo's vehicle. Either his position is randomized every time, or he moves around periodically. Whatever the truth might be, my craters stumble upon him and fry him on the spot. I remember to take the given lunars back to the base, since I'm not allowed to leave anything here. Lesotho is the final mission of the run. At first, the goal is the same as before: destroy all ED forces. The ED attacks completely crumble in front of electro craters assisted by the UCS mechs. However, instead of laying waste to the ED base to the northeast, Fang goes northwest and disables the UCS refineries to stop their economy. That's because after a couple of minutes, a scripted event triggers, where the UCS break off the alliance. So now I have to destroy their forces too. Only then I send craters to remove any traces of ED on the map, with meteors taking care of their aircraft. Meanwhile, Fang, the heavy rocket craters I've got at the start, and the Guardian turret with heavy electro cannons and rocket launchers on top defend my base from the meager UCS attacks. Once there are no more ED units left, including in the small tunnel area of theirs, I send my eradication force to the UCS base. By the end of it, I only bothered to return Fang to my HQ. And now I can claim that it is possible to beat the Lunar Corporation campaign of Escape from the Blue Planet on hard without losing any units. I did mention in the beginning that this campaign would be easy, not only because Fang trivializes the missions, but the objectives themselves are mostly the same, so once you know the procedure, it just goes smoothly. But I can assure you that things are going to get worse. Much worse.